Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Everyone saranai. If you wish, you can record this talk as well for future use. So first I would like to thank Mr. Visitor Leela Ratna from Canada Buddhist Embassy for inviting me to conduct this discussion. So today is a very important day for Sri Lankans and also for the Buddhists all around the world, because there were some few very important incidents took place in the history. One main thing that is very closer to our heart is that the Bhikkhuni Order started by Lord Buddha about 2,500 years ago. The Venerable Sanghamitra, Arahat Sanghamitra theory from India came to Sri Lanka on a day like this, on a full moon day like this, and started the Bhikkhuni Order in Sri Lanka. So that's why it's a important thing for the Sri Lankans, because it's a landmark in the Buddhist history. Now, when we're talking about the Bhikkhuni, so this day is special and important because we are talking about the beginning of the Bhikkhuni lineage in Sri Lanka. So Bhikkhuni means, if someone from a different background is listening, just want to clarify, Bhikkhuni means the female form of a Buddhist renunciant. The male renunciants are called the monks, and the female renunciants are called the nuns. And in Pali, they are called Bhikkhu and Bhikkhuni. So, when we look at the history, so I need to link this talk also to the topic. The topic is Lord Buddha's contribution to the advancement of womankind. Actually, I personally don't know any other religious leader or a leader that was born to this world who have really helped women to raise their status to a higher level. If you study other religions and other movements, then you will see it's a Lord Buddha who have helped the women wholeheartedly. Buddha has helped women to liberate them from the suppressed environment they were at that time, and also he helped them to raise their status, their knowledge, their goodness, their wisdom, and Buddha had helped them to be successful in their life, and not only that, even to go beyond the normal state and even to become enlightened. That's why I said I don't know anyone else who have helped women to that extent. We need to, when I say this, we need to understand the background that was in India at that time. When Lord Buddha was born, he was born to a king, and during that time in India, there were caste systems. So the highest caste was the Brahmin caste, the ones who were the agents of the divine. They conducted all the ceremonies and rituals and things on behalf of the divine beings. So they were considered as the highest. Then the royal family, the royal caste. And then the merchant class. And then the Shudras were the workers, the servants, the slaves. So they had this type of ranking system, the caste in India during that time. And women, no matter which caste or which family they belong to, but they were looked down upon. Then the lowest in that society. So women were considered good for nothing. Just it's good to for them. They were only good to satisfy the husband's needs, to raise children, to cook and clean and look after the home affairs. That was the place that was given to the woman. So the women has to be always under the supervision of a man, and depending on the man's direction, guidance, that's what the women can do. And they didn't have any independence. They couldn't do things on their own. They always have to be under the supervision of a man. So that was a status of like the servants at that time. They were always have to be under the guidance of the master. They couldn't do things for themselves. It's a master who detected them, and under the master's dictatorship, the slaves, the servants were working. So the women was also like that, a very similar situation. So at that time, the women were not given education. So they were just housebound, and they were never, in some religions, not even allowed in their like the spiritual gathering place. For us, it's a temple, but for some, it's the mosque. For some, it's the church, the kovil. But you know, even today in Sri Lanka, we know women are not allowed inside the mosque. And in some religions, women are allowed to go to the spiritual practice, that religious the place, but they are not allowed to go inside the inner chambers, or they cannot be priests, or in some religions they have, like in Christianity, there are religious priests. The women have the permission to be a nun, but we never had a pope or like a cardinal to that level. I think in Australia, very recently, we had Barbara Bishop. So she was the first nun-bishop. But I'm not too sure whether after that there has been any other bishops. But I think that's the highest they have gone up to in that religion. Muslim religion we can't find. In Hindu religion we cannot find any women priests. So it was like that. So mainly this Hinduism was there at that time when Prince Siddhartha was born. Why I'm showing this to you is to show you this is a universal thing, that the women have not been recognized for who they are, for their capacity. So at that time, it was worst. You know, only recently women fought to have their rights for the votes. Who didn't have the rights for the votes was the servants, the slaves. They didn't have the rights for the votes either. So I just want you all to know the history, because it's very important to get the historical background. Otherwise, we can't understand, what happened during that time. So the point is the status of the women were very low. They were pretty much like not recognized. So then what happened? After the Prince Siddhartha became the Buddha, the Lord Buddha, the first thing Buddha says after he got enlightened, there was this incident that is recorded. A divine being called the Mara had come and met the Buddha and invites Buddha to die. Like he comes and says, well, now you got enlightened, Buddha, please pass away, go away, because this is my kingdom. I want to rule the people as I want. I'm the king for the sensual desires. What you have achieved is totally going against this. So I'm the king of this kingdom. So please, you're doing something against my wishes. So pass away, go away. And Buddha replies to the Mara saying, well, yes, I have gone beyond your powers, and I have got enlightened. I was not enticed with the desires or with the emotions. I have managed to get rid of all the emotions, and I have understood everything that needs to be understood. And I have developed my goodness and wisdom to the perfect level. So I'm not going to pass away just like that. I'm going to show this way even to the others. I'm going to help the men, women, and all beings to find freedom from this emotional suffering, the stress. And only after people are capable of doing it to themselves and helping one another, then only I will pass away. So Buddha says, I'm going to help men and women, both the ordained parties and lay people. So Buddha says, I'm going to set up bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, monks and nuns, the renunciants, and upasaka, upasika, means lay followers of the Buddha, the men and the women. So I'm going to set up this fourfold assembly, and not only set the fourfold assembly, but I'm going to wait until they are strong to the level where they can dispel any wrong ideas, beliefs, and they themselves can find liberation from suffering, and they can help others also, guide others also to find freedom from suffering. So until that day, I'm going to hang around. Only after my children, bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, upasaka, upasikas are strong, then I will consider to pass away. So he rejected the Mara's invitation, And he actually, so what it is that he said his mission, he put it out to the world. His mission is to help men and women equally. So his mission is to give the hand to the men and women equally for them to find liberation. So the one, when we talk about this liberation, when someone want to find the freedom from all the stress, there are two ways to do it: to get into the freeway and get into the fast lane and do it, and the other one is go in the slow mode with all the traffic and in the normal way, living a lay life and going in the slow mode. So the fast express way is renouncing all the worldly things and getting to the express way and find freedom from all kinds of physical, mental stress, and finding bliss of Nibbana here and now in this very life. To do that, you need to sacrifice your worldly way of living and giving up the sensual, valuing the sensual pleasures. So you become a renunciant, become a monk or a nun, the bhikkhu or a bhikkhuni. So that is the express way to do this. And there is a normal way. The slow way is to live like the normal person. You engage in the worldly things, and while you are engaged in the worldly, doing the worldly things, you practice the Dhamma. And hopefully maybe one day they will also get into the highway and then to the freeway and then to the expressway and bring the journey to an end after experiencing the bliss of Nibbana. So Buddha was very clear at that moment when he was challenging Mara, saying, I'm going to set up fourfold assembly: Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni, Upasaka, Upasika. So we need to understand first that the Buddha's enlightenment is not only for a particular race or for a particular people or for a particular society. It's not only for the Indians, it's not only for the men, it's not only for, it's not a personalized one. It is for universal benefit. The Buddha's enlightenment is for anyone and everyone who can understand that teaching, they can benefit. So it's not limited for Indians or for men, but it's open to anyone and everyone who can give the ear to listen to the Buddha and who can understand. They all can practice. So it's for the benefit of all beings, not just for Indians, not just for men, not just for women, for all beings. So we need to understand that we cannot limit the Buddha's service to a particular one particular kind. So now Buddha managed to reach the men easily. Men could reach Buddha easily because that society was like that. Men had the freedom to do what they want to do. Men had the freedom to do what they want to do, and they had easy access to Buddha. But women didn't have that easy access to Lord Buddha. The women were pretty much controlled by men. When they were young, it was the father. So they have to behave in accordance with the father's wish. After they grew up, they would give the girl in marriage to a man, and then the husband is in control of her life. So it's a husband's wish, then she has to carry out. And after the husband passes away, unfortunately, if the husband passes away when the woman is still young, the practice was that she has to follow the husband. So they have to jump into the husband's funeral pyre and die. So that practice is called Sati Puja, and it's illegal now, but I heard still in some rural villages, this practice is being practiced in India. Only very recently they made it illegal. It was practiced, um, um, very commonly until recently. And after, people saw this is not right, and after so many protests and this and that and the other, the government had made it illegal, but still these beliefs maintained. And in rural areas, we still hear the Sati Puja is taking place. So you can understand the background, what women actually have to go through, and what kind of freedom they have. Pretty much they don't have freedom apart from being under the man's thumb. They don't have freedom. And if they had a strong son, then there have been places where if these women came from a strong family, wealthy family, powerful family, then the son can rescue her. So the son can take responsibility of looking after the widow, that means her mother, his mother, and he can take care of the mother, and then she don't have to jump to the funeral pyre. So then the son takes the control. So then the mother have to live according to the son's wishes. What the son says, the lady has to do that, follow that. So they never had any freedom on their own. So even if they have to go to the kovil or to the temple, either they have to go with the father or the husband or the son. So that was the case. Then what happened, now don't believe this because I'm saying this, it's in the Indian history, and you can look into the suttas, because you need to see this first. You need to understand this situation for you to understand how compassionate was Buddha towards the women, how he protected, how he raised their status, how he helped them. But to do, he did a very radical thing, because no one was there to speak on behalf of the women for them to give the freedom. Only Buddha did that, and because he did that radical thing, he had to face so many challenges. So when he was setting up that environment, helping the women and helping them to find freedom, and to help them to prove who they are, there were so many problems and challenges. So Buddha actually had to put certain rules and certain things in place to make sure this is a successful mission, that after Buddha's passing away, people cannot reverse it. So Buddha make sure that he put some, he laid a very strong foundation, and then he said it's to be maintained. So this is the reason why he actually put some Vinaya rules. Not just for the nuns, actually, it is there for the monks as well, but especially there are special Vinaya rules for the nuns to help them to prevent going back, sliding back to the same status that they were in. So to help them to, advance. So the society can accept them and help women to go forward. So there are certain things that Buddha did when Buddha was helping the women at that time. It is some of those things that people really can't understand. And now some people, create these arguments and things because they really can't understand. So that's why I'm trying to give you the background. So when you understand the background, how India was and what is the status of the women at that time, you can appreciate what Buddha did, and you will see No other religious leader has helped women like Buddha did. Okay, so what happened after Buddha got enlightened? There were many men followers. Mostly it was the men who was following Buddha, and there were some who expressed the wish to get into the express lane, so they renounced the lay life and they became bhikkhus, or the monks. And then later Buddha's mother came and made a request that Lord Buddha, can I also take this life? Can I also follow you? Can I also become a nun? And then Buddha said at that time to this Mahapraja Gautami queen, he said, please do not bear that wish. That's what he said. He said, mother, do not harbor that wish. And later again, the mother came and asked. And again, Buddha said, do not harbor that wish. You know why? Because she was the queen in that kingdom, the King Suddhodana's wife, the queen. So now you need to understand the life of a renunciant. Renunciant means they have renounced all the worldly luxuries and the worldly comfort and everything, and they just live for the day. Their whole aim is not the survival. They don't think about survival. They just live for the day, but they focus on their practice, living a pure life and purifying the mind. And that is what their practice is about. So wherever they go, if it's a forest, they live in the forest, they sleep in the forest, they just walk barefoot. Wherever they have to go and beg for food, they go and beg for food. If they get food, they eat. If they don't get food to eat, so they don't have food, they don't get food. They live hard, you know, you have to live with the hunger for that day. And it's like that. The life was very in a way, it's like ascetic means, you know, you're not looking for comfort or luxury or anything, but you just spend the day with whatever that comes on your way, and you're happy with that. But can you imagine a queen to come down to that level? Lived in a palace, having the people, having everything, you know, set up on the table and people there to serve them morning to night. How can they just go and beg for food in a street? How can they accept the situation where if you get food, when you beg for food, you get to eat? When you go for begging the food, alms, when you go on the alms round, if no one gives you food, there is no food to eat. The monks and nuns, they don't cook. So you just have to bear the hunger then. And you can't live, beg for the food the whole day. We only do it up to midday. So whether you get the food by midday or not, you know, that it is decided at that time. So you just, can you please don't ring? I think we need to understand this life is a very austere life. It all depends on the, you know, others' grace and help. So it's not a life where you do things to make yourself comfortable, but you just go with the flow. If people look after you, take care of you, that's very good. If people decide to not to look after you and take care of you, you have to accept that too. So the renunciant life is a life where you don't do anything to, you know, for your comfort. It's your life is on the other's hands. So how can you imagine, how can a queen come to that state where they can accept that? So this is not an easy life. And it's not easy for a lady as well. Like the Buddha used to walk from one village to another, and they would sleep in the forest. They would just sleep in a hut. And how could the ladies do that? Who is going to protect them? And if if Buddha's mother, Prajapati Gautami mother, came and got into the order, the Prince Yasodhara, the Buddha's ex-wife, also will follow her, because there was no one in the palace at that time. At that time, Buddha's father, the king, had passed away. And so Buddha was not in the palace. And then Buddha's brothers and sisters, the half brothers and sisters, they were not there. And the grandchildren were not there. So Mahaprajapati Gautami Queen was feeling very lonely. She expresses that, saying, this palace is like a cemetery now. I only have memories of my husband, of my son, of my children, of my grandchildren. There's no one here. This is like a graveyard. I only have memories. So can you please ordain me? I want to come out from this palace. That's what she came and said to Lord Buddha. And if she came, the only person who was there with her was the queen, Princess Yasodhara, the Buddha's ex-wife. And she would have followed her too. Then she can't be left alone in the palace with the servants, with the workers. So she would have followed too. Then you can imagine, this was like the time after Buddha got enlightened, after about a few years. This request came from the Buddha's mother, and there was a lot of resistance from the Brahmins at that time. They were very jealous about Buddha's success, because the Brahmins saw the kings and the merchants who were their supporters were really now supporting Buddha. And the Brahmins were getting less support and less place in the society. And people were regarding Buddha as the highest one in that society. So they were very jealous. So imagine when the Queen Mahaprajapati Gautami came and requested Buddha personally, my son, my dear son, can you please take me into your order? It would have been a big hahu in that society. The Brahmins would turn it around and say, look, Buddha can't live without his mother. Even though he left, he said he's a renunciant. Look who he is keeping. His mother and his wife, they all are there. So it would have made a very big hahu, and it wouldn't have looked nice, because it was just going to stir up the society. People it can help to lead a lot of misunderstandings. So at that time, because the society was not prepared to accept this, with all the challenges that Buddha was facing, Buddha told Prajapati Gautami Queen to hold on to the horses. He said, don't wish for that, mom. That's what he said. People wrongly translate this and say Buddha said, sorry, I'm not going to take you into the order. I'm going to refuse you. Buddha didn't refuse. All he did was, we need to understand, maruchi, the word says maruchi means don't have a wish for this, don't desire this. That's what he says. And then what happens? Lord Buddha left the Kimbulwat Nuwara, his hometown, and went to Vaisali. And after he left to Vaisali, a lot of Sakyan prince also followed him. They left the lay life, and they also became monks, and they followed Lord Buddha to Vaisali. So they have a lot of households now, rich people, people coming from these merchant families, royal families. The men have left with Buddha. So all the ladies are left in the houses. So it's a big problem. Now all these ladies came and met Yasodhara, the Princess Yasodhara, and started blaming her. Said, look what your husband did. Not only that, he, went into the forest. He renounced and went into the forest. He abandoned the palace. Look now what he did. He even took our husbands. And now we don't have anyone to protect us. And so they were making a big hahu in that area, and they were troubling, creating problems for Princess Yasodhara and the Mahapajapati Gautami queen. So then what happened? The Mahapajapati Gautami queen came forward and said, well, the queen, Princess Yasodhara also helped them to understand the reality of the life. So she said, look, don't get angry with your husbands. When my husband did this, Prince Siddhartha left the palace and went, and I never ever cursed him. I only saw the good side of it. He did it for the benefit of many. So you need to think in that way. These men who left you didn't leave you because they didn't love you, but because they found a better way to live, a more meaningful way to live than living a selfish life, bound into this selfish way of life. It's good to live a selfless life. Now they are living a selfless life, and now they are very happy, and now they are there for everyone, to help everyone. So you should be very happy about the courageous thing that your husbands have done. They have given up the selfishness and they have become selfless. So we should really rejoice in their success. So these ladies understood that, and they calmed down and they were happy. And then they started to contemplate on the meaning of their life. Now they don't have a father, they don't have their husband, they don't have children. So what are we going to do? Like I said, if a woman was by themselves in that society, it was a big problem. They have to choose to die, or they are not really recognized in the society. And I guess they were lost now. They didn't know what to do. So then the Prajapati Gautami queen found a solution. She said, well, now we also, let's follow the Buddha's footprints. Why not? We don't have anything here. We don't have anything that we appreciate and value in here. We also see the empty nature in life, and we also see that way of living, the renounced life. And, Buddha's way of life is good. And it helps one to live without stress. And also it helps to help others to find this, peace and happiness. So we also can follow them. Let's follow them. So they said, well, what's the use of all these garlands and all this gold and silver and gems? They all were beautiful princesses, and they had all these, jewels and things, ornaments. So they threw them out. They throw them out and said, anyone and everyone who wants to pick them, they can have it. So they threw all the ornaments, things that they were wearing to beautify them, they throw them out. And then they said, well, what's the point of having this long hair? No longer this is going to serve us. If we are going to follow Buddha's footprints, we have to get ready to live that life. It has to be an easy maintained life. We just can't keep on brushing and combing and, looking after this. So it's going to be a headache. Let's shave our hair. So what they did, they shaved their head. So now then they thought about the dresses. Well, we don't need all these pretty expensive, nice dresses. They also just put on a piece of robe, piece of cloth, like how the Buddha was wearing. They put a piece of cloth, and they decided to go to Vaisali. They said, let's go and meet Buddha, and let's live like them. So they just started walking towards the Vaisali side. If you look into the map in India, from Kimbulwat Nuwara to Vaisali, it's very far away. But when they set to go, people came, the loud ones came and begged, don't leave. But they said, no, we don't have anything to do here. We also find the meaning of life, and we want to live in a good way, so we are leaving. And they said, well, wait, we'll bring the vehicles. You know, those days the vehicles were dolava or assakaratta, means the horse carts, or the people were carrying the people. The highest caste people were always carried in the lower caste people's shoulders. We call it dolava. And the rich people also had these horse carts, where the horse, we still have it, so you all know the horse cart. So they were offering them, you know, you are princesses, how can you walk all that far barefoot? Wait, we'll help you with this, we will transport you. Then they refused that. They said, no, Buddha don't go like that, place to place, he walks, and we are going to walk. So they refused all the modes of transport, and they decided to just walk. So there was about 500 princesses, it says. Then the Mahapajapati Gautami queen, now she's like an ascetic, renunciant, she took the lead. And so behind her, all these 500 people, including Princess Yasodhara and all these other ladies, are walking. And it may have taken some weeks or months. It doesn't say in the sutta how long it took, but when you look at the map, you can see it would have taken some time to get there on foot. So then finally they reached this Vaisali, where Lord Buddha was residing at that time, Kutagara hall. So they went there, and when they went, I'm sure before they got there, the Hahu would have gone there, the Buddha would have heard, the monks would have heard, there is this protest coming, these ladies are coming, you know, one after another, they all following this, you know, to come to the meet Lord Buddha. So they all, maybe they knew they were coming, because you can't have a secret protest. When there's a protest, when there's so many people, imagine 500 people, the message will go to the kings in that kingdom. You know, they all had secret services in every kingdom. They also have little states in India. They had little states. So when you cross one state and went into the other state, the Charapurusha or the secret services would give that message to the rulers in that country when there's a big event like this happening. So in my mind, this is my personal view, the people in Vaisali would have known that this was happening, this was taking place. And then, so what happened when the ladies went to this temple where Lord Buddha was residing? Venerable Ananda Thero came to the gate and greeted Prajapati Gautami, the queen mother, and then Venerable Ananda Thero's aunt, this queen, was his aunt too. So he has this personal bondage with her too. So he went and greeted, and then he asked, what's this all about? And then they said, well, we have left the palace and our houses. We got nothing to do there anymore. And we also want to follow this worthy life. And we want to enter to the order, and we just want to live under the Buddha's guidance. And then Venerable Ananda went and conveyed this message to the Buddha. And then, you know, Buddha said, well, the Venerable Ananda Hamudru is very careful when handling this, because everyone knew Venerable Prajapati Gautami Menin Vahansa has already asked Lord Buddha, and Lord Buddha had not given permission to this at that time. And there is a rule, or it's a custom, where people will ask Buddha only 3 times for something. If they wanted to get permission from Buddha, they will only ask for 3 times. They will not push the button more than that. So Venerable Ananda was very, very careful at this time, because this was the last chance they had. So Venerable Ananda went round and round, and he said, he was talking to Buddha, and he asked, well, Lord Buddha, can the women also get rid of all their defilements and get rid of their emotions, and can they overcome these emotions and get enlightened? Can they also live like us? Can they become a arahat? And the Buddha said, yes, of course they can. Then the Venerable Ananda said, well, I think it's time. Then they all have come. They are saying they got nothing to do with this worldly life anymore, and they want to live this life. So they're here to do that. Then Lord Buddha well said, well, I'm going to give these 8 Garudhammas. If they are happy to accept these rules, it is for their benefit. If they're happy to accept them, well, they can come to the order. By then, this queen and the princesses, they have proved that they can live this austere life. Like they were not wishing for a luxurious life or a comfort life, but they have accepted this life. They have already embarked into the path, and they have proven we also can walk even barefoot. We can just walk in the streets and beg for food, and we also can sleep in the forest, and we just did that. And they proved that they can. And this was not just a private what do you call it? Was not just the mother of the Buddha was requesting this. Now it's a social need. Before, if it was the mother, I told you there would have been many problems. But now it's a social need when 500 people is requesting that. So the Buddha didn't hesitate. Buddha just gave forth. He said, as long as they accept these 8 Garudhammas, I'm quite happy for them to enter into this way of life. So in that 8 Garudhammas, what they are is, it's setting up the foundation for the ladies to live this way of life. And Buddha has taken into account the social context at that time. You need to understand, Buddha is not someone who will do things because someone requests, or in favor of someone, or he will do the things in the at the wrong time. No, even the Buddha's birth is a planned one. Prince Siddhartha didn't just come to the womb of the mother Mahamaya. He planned it, pre-planned it. They would look for the perfect mother and the father, the perfect country, the perfect people, a perfect language at that time. Because Buddha is just coming to do a mission. It's not like our accidental births. We are born to parents. We even don't know whether we chose or what happened, where we are going to born after we die, what will happen to us. We don't know. That's our ignorance. That's our state. But the Prince Siddhartha, the Buddha to be, is not like that. He even planned his own birth, and with the planning, pre-planning, he came and came to this earth as a human being. At that time, the best place that he could find, the best genes, the best mother, best father, the best language to be spoken, he came to that. So when he is doing something, Buddha don't do things just, emotionally like us. Buddha didn't have emotions. Buddha was acting rationally, logically, with wisdom. So what's needed to be done, Buddha would do that. So when Mahapajapati Gautami Queen asked for the ordination, that time, it wasn't the right time. We have to wait for the right time. So now it is the right time because it's a social need. And when these people were coming to Vaisali, the kings in that state, they were very fond of Lord Buddha. You know the Vajjins. And you know, when in Mahaparinibbana Sutta, Buddha says, when he was leaving this Vaisali to his final place, to Kusinara, he looked back. This is the only place where he looked back to this Vaisali and says, even the wind that's coming from that side is pleasant. So he loved this place because the people who lived there, these Vajji kings, were venerated Lord Buddha so much. They had so much respect and they looked after Lord Buddha and the Sangha so well. So these people, this was the best place, I think, to really establish the Bhikkhuni order, because they really took care of these ladies, the nuns. They gave the highest respect even to the nuns. So when these protests were coming to Vajiraj, or to that Vaisali kingdom, I'm sure the kings were preparing. You know, how are you going to let 500 people sleep in that city if they haven't put up the huts and places? I mean, one person can keep 1 or 2 people in their house. Even the kings can accommodate maybe few people. How you are going to accommodate 500 people? And I'm sure the kings were pre-prepared to accommodate them. And, you know, they were welcomed from the moment that they entered the Vaisali. They were welcomed by the rulers and the people who were there, because at that time they had so much respect and the trust and everything towards the Buddha, and they have taken up the Buddha's teachings and they have become Buddhist and they were practicing it, and they embraced what Buddha taught, and at the same time they actually embraced these nuns into their society. They didn't look down upon them, they didn't think that they can't do, but they all embraced. And so it was the best place, because they were the best supporters of the Buddha, these Vajji kings at that time. So then what happened? They prepared the places for the nuns, and these 500 nuns were very well looked after. So Buddha waited until the right time. If he did this in a place where people had a lot of, you know, resistance to helping and raising the women's status, this would have been sabotage. This would have had to face many problems. But here, it was very smooth, and it was like taking the duck into the water. The society accepted the nuns without any resistance at all. So Buddha said, Buddha must have waited for this. And when the right time came and things happened, he gave forth to the nuns and he said, but you have to follow these 8 rules, the Garudhammas, for your own benefit, for the benefit of the nuns now and for the future. And so the Mahapajapati Gautami Queen says to Ananda Hamduru, when the Ananda Hamduru brought this message to the Mahapajapati Gautami Queen, then she said, oh yes, like a garland, I will put on it like wearing a garland. I will follow this until I die. And so then the Ananda Hamdru went back and told the Buddha that, oh yes, she accepted it so happily, like a lady would accept a garland and put it on his neck, put it on her neck. She accepted these rules so happily, and she promised to keep these Ashtagaru Dhamma. Then Buddha said, well, that is her higher ordination. So she being accepted the order. So that was her ordination. This is what happened at that time. And now the women's status were raised to the level when the king came to meet Buddha, they also had to go on their knees and pay respect to the women. That was never ever done in that society. Women were always looked down like the servants, and they were not even given education. But here what Buddha did was something radical. And Buddha said, yes, no, the women have emotional weaknesses. I mean, they are emotionally weak, but you provided them the guidance, the information, the education, and you train them. They also can overcome their defilements, their weaknesses, their emotions, and they can purify themselves, and they can develop their goodness and wisdom. And they can even go beyond the state of a normal man and even get enlightened. And he let the women prove that. And this is what Venerable Mahapajapati Gautami Theri did. She accepted all the advice and guidance from Lord Buddha, and she practiced, and she became an arahant. And then she proved it to the world. This is the feat that women can go up to. They also can reach the highest, going even beyond the normal state of a human state. And we also can become enlightened. And she proved that, and all the 500 women proved it. They all got enlightened. So when the kings came, they also had to bow down after the nuns have been entered into the order. So this was something the Brahmins could not even fathom. You know, they couldn't think, how can you worship a rubbish? Because the women were put into the status of the rubbish, the lowest state. And now when the king goes, king also have to bow down and pay respect to the women. So it was something very radical what Buddha did. So we need to know this background to understand what Buddha did. So I think Buddha had done the best, and he has set up the environment very nicely, and it has been set up in a way it was well accepted in the society. And up to now, so the nuns exist. No one could sabotage it. So this is the contribution from Buddha to the womankind, to raise their status and to help them to find freedom from all kinds of emotional and stress and suffering. So we need to talk about this on a day like this. Sangamitta Day is the day that is being dedicated for the Bhikkhunis, to the advanced or spiritually developed women, in a sense, the renunciant women, we call the Bhikkhunis. So we cannot talk about Bhikkhunis without talking the Buddha, because it was the Buddha who set up this order and who helped the ladies, the women, to get to this state. So I'm so grateful to Lord Buddha that Buddha did this with a lot of loving kindness. And thank to Lord Buddha that today even the women can find liberation from all kinds of stress and suffering. So I hope everyone who is listening this can actually benefit from these teachings, and let us not miss the opportunity that now we are born as a human being. Whether you're a man or a woman, we both have the equal opportunity to follow this Dhamma, to practice, whether you want to practice in the normal way or you want to get into the express way. Both ways are open. It's an individual choice. And then so let us practice, and let us all find freedom from all kinds of physical and mental suffering, and attain the highest bliss of Nibbana. And let us all get enlightened, and be free from all the samsaric suffering. So may you all be well and happy. This is just like a summary of what happened at that time, and how this Bhikkhuni order came. And I think I will stop here, and you can take time to ask questions now.
Venerable Mani, I have a question, if you kindly listen to, and I have, my question is, Buddha, started the Bhikkhuni order, but after some time in the history, that was gone somewhere, like, and why that happened? Is it a thing that's meant to be happen, or Can you have some thoughts on that, Manny, kindly?
What you means is there was no Bhikkhunis in Sri Lanka, the Bhikkhuni
No,
lineage.
Bhikkhuni order was lost in the history,
No.
right?
Yeah. Okay.
And after that, he had to reordain, and even today, the order is not, considered equal to the male order.
Okay.
That is
No, this is the thing. What happened? Now you need to understand this resistance for the ladies to, to advance, or for the ladies to have an equal footing, is always being challenged, not just in the Bhikkhuni order, in every field. It's like that. Now, today, because the ladies have been given the opportunity to study, so they also can develop their knowledge, their ability to think, their analytical knowledge is good, and their brain, we have helped to develop the capacity. And so the ladies are now really, they are taking leadership in some of the areas where at that time people would not have even thought about. But it is after a long time struggling for freedom and struggling for education, and now they have proven, even in those areas where you can find now, the surgeons, lady pilots, lady presidents, lady prime ministers. So in every field, the engineers, now the women are there. But not at that time. Those days, no way they would accept women in a leading role like that. But now women have proven to do that. But still, you will hear it's not easily to come by. It's not easy. We call there is a window ceiling, a glass ceiling. So that is, we need to talk the truth. It is even happening now. So there's a lot of resistance for women to go up high. But there are few people who will go, face the challenges and somehow make it. But you need to keep in mind that resistance is there. So even though Buddha set up the order, time to time there were attacks on this. Where the Brahmins didn't like. In Buddha's order, the bhikkhus, some of the bhikkhus, most of them, they were Brahmins before. There were no Buddhists to become Buddhist or the bhikkhus. At that time, it was the Hindus or the atheists who became Buddha's followers and got ordained. So if they were not enlightened, they still had that in their genes, that they were looking down upon women, and they didn't like the women to come to a higher state. So they always were putting obstacles, and there were challenges. So what happened? Straight after Buddha passed away, the nuns, the bhikkhunis, have faced a lot of challenges. But for some lucky reason, King Asoka's daughter, Venerable Sanghamitta Mahatheri, was there because she had the royal support. The nuns were, in that area, the nuns were supported, so the nuns were there. And it happened that after Venerable Mahinda Thero, Arahat Mahinda Thero came to Sri Lanka, Venerable Sanghamitta also was invited to come to Sri Lanka, and Arahat Theri started the Bhikkhuni Order lineage in Sri Lanka. But what happened in Sri Lanka, time to time, we had attacks from other countries, like the Indian kings came and attacked, and there were a lot of political problems happening at that time. So there were times in these war times, even the bhikkhus were disappeared. Not just the bhikkhunis, even the bhikkhus got disappeared. But what happened? The bhikkhus, when there was no bhikkhus in Sri Lanka, there was temples left but empty. So only there were these upasakas wearing white and going to the temple and doing the rites and the rituals, and they didn't have the monks, the bhikkhus. But then what happened? They convinced the king at that time and said, well, we need to start the restart the order again. So we need the bhikkhu upasampada. And they, at that time, either they went to Thailand or to Burma. Time to time, they brought this back to Sri Lanka from different countries. So with the Bhikkhuni order, what happened? When the Bhikkhunis were flourishing in Sri Lanka, there was an invitation from China. A king in China, Nantian city, he invited the Bhikkhunis in Sri Lanka to come and start this Theravada ordination in China, because he had few of his royal princesses wanting to get ordained, and about I think 200 or 500 women wanting to get ordained in the Theravada tradition. So what happened? There's a bhikkhuni called Devasara, direct descendant from Venerable Sanghamitta Arahat Theri. She and some other nuns went to China. This is in our written historical records. We have books called the Chulavansa Mahavansa. This is recorded in that, and also in Chinese history. They have recorded it. And this bhikkhuni from Sri Lanka called the Devasara came with this merchant Nandi in that ship. You know, they had the Silk Route at that time. So when they were traveling, these merchants were traveling, these nuns embarked on this journey in that ship, and they came to China, and they started this, they gave this Theravada Bhikkhuni ordination to the nuns who were there, but their doctrine was Mahayana. They were following Mahayana, and but these nuns were ordained according to the Theravada Bhikkhuni ordination, and up to now in China, they have an unbroken Bhikkhuni lineage. But the problem started even though they were ordained under the Theravada Bhikkhuni ordination, given the Bhikkhuni ordination, the arguments came later, oh no, they were following Mahayana. But Mahayana is a doctrine, what they follow. But the Vinaya Karma, the ordination was from Sri Lanka, was Theravada Vinaya Karma. So from China, the Bhikkhuni ordination had spread to Korea, Vietnam, Taiwan, to Japan. And you can find in those countries, they have a broken lineage. Even though, unfortunately, in Sri Lanka, after some time, the Bhikkhuni lineage was not started until recently, because I guess even though the men protested and got the king to go and get the ordination from Thailand and another time from Burma, I guess there were no courageous women at that time coming from the royal families saying we need this ordination. Why Venerable Sanghamitta came to Sri Lanka was also from a royal request. Devanam Piyatissa, King Devanam Piyatissa's family members, they wanted to become nuns. That's why, you know, they gave so much importance and brought Venerable Sanghamitta Theri from India. If a normal woman who was walking on the road said, I want to become a nun, I don't think that request would have been granted. We would have had the Bhikkhuni Sangha there. But because someone from the royal family wanted this, they started the Bhikkhuni lineage. So later, I guess, there was no powerful ladies requesting for this. So there was no need in Sri Lanka for some time, but only the monks' order was re-established, the Bhikkhu order, but the nuns' order was not re-established. But by then, the order that was taken from Sri Lanka to China, that lineage has been unbroken and up to today. So what happened recently? Now the ladies in Sri Lanka, some strong people, wanted to enter into the Bhikkhuni order. So they researched and they asked the monks to research on this. So there were a lot of monks who were involved, especially the monks who went to America, to other countries, and very well-known monks in Sri Lanka. When they heard this request from these powerful ladies who came from powerful families and who had a lot of education, some were professors, like Bhikkhuni Kusuma. She was a professor teaching Buddhism, Pali, even to the monks. And she requested this. So they had to, look into this. Then they found out, even though our lineage was broken in Sri Lanka, but it is alive in other parts of the world. So that's what they found in that research. The broken is, the lineage is unbroken in other parts of the country. And they said, well, it is the same Vinaya karma that went from Sri Lanka to those countries, the Theravada Bhikkhunis, even though they are called Mahayana Bhikkhunis, but still it began with the Theravada ordination. So it is valid. What they are doing is the Theravada ordination. So we can bring it back. And they brought it back. And later they had this very well-known Bhikkhuni ordination in India in 96. Don't quote, this year, 1996 or 1998. They had this first Bhikkhuni ordination there, and there was about 10 Bhikkhunis came out from that. Then there was another ordination after 2 years. There was about same numbers, and then these Bhikkhunis were taken to Sri Lanka, and Inamalwid Ambule Hamutru, he started training them, and they started that. Before this, there had been an ordination in LA, in Shilai temple, and 10 Sri Lankan, that was in 80s, and 10 Sri Lankan Bhikkhunis were chosen for that, the Dasasil Matas, but I think only 5 had ended up getting the higher ordination, and they have returned. Not many people know about this. Havanpola Ratanasara Hamudru and Venerable Piyananda Hamudru, they were involved in this. And so these Bhikkhunis was ordained in 1980s in Shilai Temple in USA. When I was there, I found the history, and also I have met one of the Bhikkhunis who is still alive, living in Sri Lanka. I have met her, and she showed me the photos of the ordination and everything too. So there have been few ordinations ever since then, and now there is Bhikkhunis there. So that's the history that I know. And as far as I know, it's unbroken, and it's like this, when you have a lamp, you lit another lamp from that, and our lamp goes away, but the other lamp is still continue to, have the light. So they brought it back and lit our lamp again. That's what happened.
Thank you, Venerable Mani. Thank you for that clarification, and it's very informative. And maybe somebody else have a question today.
You can, if you want to know about this unbroken lineage, you actually can talk to Professor Hao Wei Min, the Chinese professor residing in Sri Lanka. Our friend visitor Leela Ratna's uncle, Professor Siripara Leela Ratna. And his student is this Professor Hao Wei Min, and he had gone and visited these Chinese Bhikkhunis recently, and they still call themselves apparently Theravada Bhikkhunis. And there is an interview with him, and he says, that they went there and they met these Bhikkhunis, and they have their unbroken lineage recorded in their history. And you still find these Bhikkhunis who call Theravada Bhikkhunis, and apparently they were so happy to see Professor Leela Ratna and this Professor Hao Wei Min saying, oh, someone from our motherland had come to visit us. So it's just that a lot of people don't know. They are so ignorant about the facts. That's why there's all these ha-hu things. So I guess it's good to educate people then.
I know,
And
I know, Doctor, how I mean, because when he was in the Peradeniya University, when I was there.
So has he
Yeah.
told you about their visit to this Bikuni temple in China?
No, we didn't get into that much details because I left the country, and I was in the far projects. I was an engineer back home, so
Okay.
I know he was interested in Sri Lankan history and Chinese relationships,
Right.
ancient relationships, and
Right.
yeah, it was very interesting. We had to get this thing into the society, and it is very
Yes.
good that we
Yes.
have this platform.
Yes, yes. While he is alive, these should be recorded, written into books, and recorded his interviews, and they have historical, value. So you all should preserve it while he is alive and living in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, maybe this is a good lead. One day we can have a discussion with him too, and
Yes. Yes.
and Manny and him too. One day visit that, and we have a
Yes,
lead
yes.
for this.
Yeah, Bhikkhuni also wants to do this because his uncle, where he stopped, the Professor Lira Ratna, he is someone who really wanted to re-establish the Bhikkhuni order in Sri Lanka because he believed after seeing this in China that we need to do something in Sri Lanka. We have to bring this back to our country. And so now the son wants to start the work where the uncle uncle ended, and he wants to kind of embark on it and finish the uncle's unfinished business. Professor
Yeah, he has a
Lira,
blessing from our community here too, so he will continue to do that.
you
And maybe
can
somebody else have a question too. Somebody else also have a question too. So please go ahead.
Man, this is Ajanta. Actually, you have answered most of the questions because I listened to this podcast from Dan Harris interviewing Pamela Weiss. So actually, you have answered most of the questions, but I have still a few which they were questioning.
yeah.
In their podcast, they said in the third time with 500 devotees, Prajapati Gautami came to Lord Buddha and he refused, and then the ladies were like crying and they were so upset, and then Ananda Thero heard this and and then he went to Lord Buddha. So that is not the case, is it? Did the 500 Prajapati Gautami with the 500 devotees, did she go straight to Ananda Thero, or there wasn't an incident like that? Is that it?
Now, this is the thing, sometimes some sutras or some things, sometimes they get tempered. When the Brahmins had the access, some of the sutras even. Now the Pali scholar says there you can see the tempering in the sutras where people try to say what they believe, not what Buddha taught. Sometimes some people try to, even today people teach what they want to teach, not what Buddha taught. Even at that time, so people did that. So I guess we need to, be wise here. Now my question is, when Buddha answered to the Mara saying, I'm going to set up fourfold assembly, Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni, Upasaka, Upasika, does these people think he was joking? Does the Buddha ever have two words? The normal human beings can say yes, then later no, like that. But Buddha is someone who never do that. Their words are very strong. When they say something, they mean it. But they don't do things are avatagiyata. They don't just do it because, people request. They do it when the right time is there. Like Venerable Sariputta requested Lord Buddha, let's have Vinaya on place. Let's have Vinaya put in. Buddha refused. Buddha didn't listen to Venerable Sariputta, his right hand disciple. Buddha didn't just lay down the Vinaya rules just because Venerable Sariputta asked. He refused at that time. But it didn't mean because he refused, because it was not the right time, that he didn't do it later. And we know Buddha laid down the rules later when there was the right time, when there was a need for it. So the same thing with the Bhikkhuni thing. Just because Buddha didn't allow the Mahapajapati Gautami queen to go forth at the beginning, it doesn't mean he refused it forever. Like he was waiting for the right time, like with the Vinaya rules. So if people take it without seeing the whole story, they just take a little bit and say, misinterpret, that's very wrong. That's why we need to know this whole story. So even at that time, there was another thing that Buddha want to establish. You know what that is? I will tell you that now. That is, the ladies are normally, they have this quality of domineering. The ladies in their psychology, how we are wired, they have this domineering quality because in their genes, they are they're being prepared to bear offspring and to protect the offspring. So this goes with the survival. So the ladies do have to take care of their offspring. So they have this bossy quality, domineering quality. They want to train the baby, and so they are very strong in their ideas. So sometimes, a lot of the time, what happens, this not only they want to control their child, that get extended to their husband too. And then even from beyond that. So this bossy quality is in there. Even the king, you know, the king can be the ruler of the country, but who rules the palace? The queen. The king have to bow down to the queen. Like, you know, it is the ladies kind of the thinking that is being put into place. Like they would try anything and everything to get their way. They are very bossy. We know that. So what Buddha did, now Mahapajapati Gautami queen also had this domineering quality in her. One instance, I'll tell you how she was not even obedient to Lord Buddha. There were few places. I will tell you one place. She wanted to offer a robe to Lord Buddha. So she brought this robe and offered it to the Lord Buddha, and Lord Buddha didn't accept it. He said, Mom, offer these to the Sangha, to the Mahasangha. And the Mahapajapati Gautami queen said, no, I don't want to offer it to Mahasangha. I want to offer it to my son. Lord Buddha is my son. I want to offer it to my son. That's where she was standing. So then the second time also Buddha didn't take it, and then Buddha said, offer it to Mahasangha. She didn't want to. So she was not listening to Buddha. She was not obedient. And then because Buddha was not accepting it, she started crying. Then the Ananda Hamudra was nearby. He came and he intervened, and he thought, oh, poor thing. And then, you know, he had a very soft corner for Mahapajapati Gautami Devi, his aunt. And then he said to Lord Buddha, Lord Buddha, you know, when your mother passed away, it was her who even suckled you and looked after you like her own child. So blah, blah, blah. And then Buddha said to Ananda Hamudra, well, you know, at this time, there is no one who knows about the parents' qualities more than me. I know all these qualities of the parents, and I know how to respect them. And I want her to offer this to the Mahasangha so she gets more benefit than if she is to offer to me privately. When it says Mahasangha, even me included in there. So when she offers it to Mahasangha, she gets more merits. That's why I'm asking her to do this. So then it was very clear to Mahapajapati Gautami Teri, okay, why Lord Buddha is saying this? Then when Ananda Hamdru explained it to her, she offered it and went. But what I want to show here is how disobedient she was, how strong she was. So she had that bossy quality when she wanted to boss around the Buddha. So you can imagine when she asked for this, if Buddha had given it the first time, Buddha won't be able to control this one. Being the Buddha's mother, she will control anyone and everyone. It is her children there, her grandchildren there. You can imagine she'll be very busy correcting little Rahula Hamadu, her grandson. And she will be very busy correcting Nanda Hamadru, Ananda Hamadru, and all of them. And there were many servants, or many workers that who worked in the for the royal family who have got ordained here. She would have bossed them around from left to right, right to left. So it would have become a mess. So what Buddha did, he didn't allow Mahapajapati Gautami Tserani to enter this order just like that. He wanted to make sure that she understands if she's going to come to the order, her place, where she should be, what she should be doing. So Buddha didn't make it easily accessible. You know, when someone gets something so easily, there is no there is no value in it. But when you have to really work hard and you get it, you really value, you really appreciate it. Yeah, so the same thing happened. So there was lot of demand, but then Buddha didn't just give it away like that. Buddha made sure that she understood that she has to come to terms what the Buddha is laying down, and she needs to be obeying not just to the Buddha. Buddha made sure that she will obey the Mahasangha. The Mahapajapati Gautami Therani will listen to all the monks, because if not, it would have been a disaster. Women trying to show up their women quality, this bossy, domineering quality in the Sangha society, arguing and fighting and all that, they look very ugly. You know how men and women they settle a problem. Normally, women go more into the argumentative mode. They argue. That is the nature in them. They cry. They show emotions. But the men be different. You know, they think and they try to fix the problem. So Buddha wanted them to adhere to the higher quality. So Buddha said, no arguments here. If you're going to come to this order, no arguments with the monks. Hello, are you going to accept this? The Mahapajapati Gautami Mehendinwansi said, oh, yes, Lord, yes. So one of the rules in this 8 Garudhammas was to put down their ego, to, make them humble, to make them obedient, not just to the Buddha, to the elder brothers. The Bhikkhu Sasana was the first one to be established. So that is like the elder brother. So this Bhikkhuni Sasana, the nuns order, was established later. So she's the younger sister. So now the elder brother has to look after the younger sister. So the younger sister have to listen, to be obedient, to be humble. To make all that, Buddha laid down these rules. So one of the rules is not to have any arguments with the monks, and not to admonish any monk, not to tell any monks what to do, but the nuns, the bhikkhunis, have to listen to the monks, what they have to say. And the bhikkhunis have to sought advice from the monks. So monks, when it says monks, the Buddha included, Buddha and the Bhikkhu Sasana, the bhikkhus. And then there's another rule where it says the bhikkhunis have to pay respect to the elder brother, to the monks. So even though you being ordained for, say, 100 years, but if you have a monk who gets ordained, get into the higher ordination today, if someone is Upasampada today, a monk, the bhikkhunis have to pay respect to that, because this is taken as a whole. The Bhikkhu Sasana means not just individual people. It is taken as a whole. This is the elder brotherhood. So the Bhikkhunis were set up later. So that is the younger sister. So the younger sisters always have to look up to the elder brother. Then only the elder brother can help the younger sister. And at that time, I told you, this is to confer to the society needs as well. The society had this thought always. The women always have to be under the guidance of men. So even in the spiritual platform, this is what Buddha did. Buddha placed the women under the umbrella of the men. Like the bhikkhus, the elder brothers, are to look after and take care of the younger sisters. So they were under their protection. So the society didn't see them as loose ones. They saw the women were well guided by the elder brothers and they are well looked after. So it's not a threat for the society. And that's why they really nicely accepted the women. So all these rules were laid down for a purpose. So when these rules were taken in nicely, when the Mahapajapati Gautami said, "Oh yes, Lord, I accept this, no problem," Buddha gave forth. So Buddha was waiting. He was not just giving in to her, to their request under their conditions. Buddha made sure that if they are coming to this order, you have to follow my rules, my orders. You just can't be my mother. You can't have that, that domineering character, but you really have to be a disciple and you really have to have respect, not just for me, to all the monks. You have to take the monks as the elder brothers. You need to see it as a whole. And when everything was done in the proper way, Buddha allowed them to go on forth. So until everything was set up in the right way, until Buddha laid down the proper foundations, he didn't give any burulak dunne. Only when things are perfectly done and accepted and agreed, then he gave forth. See how beautiful it is?
Thank you, Mehni. That answered my question about in the podcast. It's saying highest ranking bhikkhuni is lower than the lowest ranking bhikkhu. So that explained it. Yes.
The problem is the Westerners, they don't see this. They always take it as individual things. Buddha didn't make people to look at the Sangha as individuals. This is always seen as a society, as a whole. There's no individuals here. We all, comes under the banner of the Bhikkhu Sasana or Bhikkhu Sangha or the Bhikkhuni Sasana, the Bhikkhu Sangha. So they are not individuals here. It's like coming together. Sangha means coming together, collection of people. So they are not highlighting individuals. When you're respecting to that whole system.
Yeah, I understand now. Yeah, so there's definitely no discrimination for the female like Bhikkhuni. So that was the main topic in this podcast. So there was definitely not. It is through compassion and according to the times that was those rules were done. So I understand that. Yeah.
So people say when people look at it from the wrong angle and looking at from our egoistic angle, we measure things from our measurements. But Buddha was the most compassionate. Buddha had the most loving kindness and the compassion, and Buddha had the wanting, the urge to help not just even women, all beings. So he knew what exactly to do and how to help them. So who are we to discriminate that Mahakarunava? He knew exactly what to do. But if we don't see the whole picture, the society at that time, we don't have an understanding of the history, the circumstances at that time, we can easily criticize and we can say, this is discrimination, this, that. But Buddha was the one who dispelled that discrimination. Buddha is the one who helped the women to raise up their status. So before we comment and, make such comments, we need to be very careful, because who you are criticizing is not just a normal person, a Buddha. It can accumulate enormous demerit. If we are criticizing a pure person when they have done things with utmost purity, with such genuine, generous heart, with Maha Karuna, with the greatest compassion, it brings a lot of this demerit to us for spreading the misunderstanding. So it's very important, anyone who is a Buddhist or a non-Buddhist, before they touch the Buddha, before they start speaking and saying things around, we need to be very careful, because if a misunderstanding spreads around, people will have disrespect towards the Buddha, and Buddha spent eons and eons to become a Buddha, purifying and perfecting their goodness and wisdom. So if someone is attacking that, Buddha Jina Panjare, you know, it brings enormous amount of demerits. So we need to be very, very careful. It's like touching the fire. If you don't know how to use the fire in the proper way, if you touch a snake in the wrong way from the tail end, that's going to be very dangerous. So my advice for people who is criticizing the Buddha without knowing the in and outs, and without knowing the history, without knowing the background, have to be very careful, at least to be careful in the
Thank you,
future.
Manny.
So it can be very safe for everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Manny. And
I
actually,
hope that I have
you gave
dispelled
the real
some.
rationale of this, Vinaya rules. So thank you very much, giving us that light. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So I hope,
Can I?
some of these the darknesses maybe we have dispelled today, so people can look it from the right angle, the proper way, and get enlightened about these things. So thank you very much, Ajanta, for bringing up that question. And I guess, do you have another question?
I have few more if you have any more time, because
Oh, yeah.
it is all to
Please
do
go
with
for it.
it
Please
is
go
all
for
to
it.
do with it is all to do with this podcast, because
Yes.
I will say so in the podcast it also said about they were not sure what happened to Prajapati Gotami or Mahamaya Devi, where they are, or Yasodhara Devi. So in the podcast they are under the impression maybe Maha Prajapati Gotami will become the next Buddha. Will there be a next Buddha? So this is mainly, I want to send this thing to this podcast, this Dan Harris's website, so that they understand. So if you can please explain, and when I get the
Okay.
video, I can send it.
All right. Yes. I'm sure from this Canada Buddhist Embassy, you can request and get the recorded version of this and send it to these people, so we can help them to correct their views and to help them to strengthen the proper view. So Mahapajapati Gautami Rahat Theranin Wahanse, she got enlightened and passed away. We call Mahaparinibbana. After someone has attained the Mahaparinibbana, they won't be born again. Even the Yasodhara Maharahat Therani, and all the so those are the two names that came, right? They have attained Parinibbana, and they won't be born again. But the Buddha's mother, Mahamaya Devi, she is a divine being, a celestial being, a deva, a Samya Drishtika Devi, or we call the Matru Diviraja, the Buddha's mother. She's in Tautisa Divyaloka. You know that Lord Buddha, when after he got enlightened, he actually looked into the world to find out, where is my mother? I want to help her. Then he saw she is born in Tautisa Divyaloka as a very powerful divine being, an angel. So Buddha went and spent one rainy season, eka vaskalaya, in this Tautisa Divyaloka, and taught them the Dhamma. And this Matru Divyaraja, the actual mother of Lord Buddha, the Mahamaya Devi, this angel or the divine being, Matru Divyaraja we call. then he understood the Dhamma and became a stream mentor, so on. So now she's a Samyak Drishtika Deviyek, Divirajek. So she is there. So I'm not too sure whether she is aspiring to become a future Buddha. That I haven't come across. Maybe, who knows, she had the ping or the merits to become the mother of the Buddha to be, and maybe she may have taken a vow or aspiration that she also want to become like her son, the Lord Buddha, in the future, where she would like to be a Buddha and help many beings to find freedom from suffering. That I don't know, I haven't come across, but it's possible. But the other two, the Mahapajapati Gautami Theranin Mahanse and Yasodhara Theranin Mahanse, they both have attained Parinibbana, so there's no returning of them.
Okay. Thank you. Another one is like, and there's so many questions. I hope I'm not taking too much of your time. This I know that after listening to Bana and everything, that the next Buddha is going to be Maitri Buddharajanan Wahanse, and it cannot be Mahamaya Devi, or like it is somebody else, is it? And when is, because they are also asking in the podcast, will there be a next Buddha, and what is when it going to be, and all those details as
well. Okay, so the Maitri Buddhuhamudru to be the next Lord Buddha is called the Lord Maitraya, or the Maitri Buddhajana Mahanse. This is what it says. Maitri Bosatanan Mahanse, or they call the Santusita Divya Raja. At the moment, that's how they call that Maitri Bosatanan Mahanse as Santusita Divya Raja, and he is waiting in the Tusita Divya world for the conditions to appear for him to come back, because he also had almost perfected his Dasaparamita alongside with the Gautama Samma Sambuddharajan. You know, they both were very close to become the Buddha. Apparently, it was the Maitraya Buddha, the Maitri Buddha, who was to become the Buddha. But our Lord Buddha, who was in behind, had perfected his the final paramita before the Maitreya Buddha. You know that Ikmam Budum Budueva Kela Katavak Ave, that there had been this story where a tiger had given birth to the little cubs, and she was hungry to the level she didn't have any food, so she was going to eat the cubs. So this Bosat, the Siddhuhat Bosatano, saw this, and he jumped off the cliff, and he offered his body to this tigress, so to save the cubs. So that means he really gave up his sense of life, or the selfishness, and he really totally gave up his life. So that brought him forward than the Maitreya Buddha. So then it says, the Maitreya Buddha, the Bosatanu had said, well, now that you did that, you went first, so you can become the Buddha first. So apparently they both were coming very close to each other to become the Buddha. So that's how that Sinhala saying comes, Ikmam Budum Buduveva Kela. Because the Maitreya Buddha didn't have the chance even to think of jumping and offering that thing. If he did, he would have got the qualification to become the Buddha, and we would have had at this time then the Maitreya Buddha as our Buddha. But because the Gautama Bodhisattvayan, Siddhartha Bodhisattvayanan offered his life first. He came in the first in the line to become the Buddha, and we have Gautama Lord Buddha as our Buddha due to that. So he perfected his paramis before the Maitreya Buddha. So now the Maitreya Buddha have to wait. So maybe he don't have to really learn lessons and perfect his paramis for a long, long time. Maybe he also had perfected many, many paramis. And what it says is he is also just waiting now for the right time to come, so he can become the Buddha. And they are saying he also waiting like the Siddhartha Bodhisattva was waiting in Tusita Divya realm until he found the right time, the right place, the right parents, the right language. And Pasmaha Balung Balalane Budune, Buduwen Ave, e wage Santusita Divya Raja also this the divine angel or the divine being, the Bosat, is waiting there until the right times, proper times comes, so he can come and teach as the Maitreya Lord Buddha. So that's the story that I know. So at the moment, as far as I know, Buddha's mother, Mahamaya Devi, is in the Tautisa Divya realm, and she's only a stream enterer. And she's in a different heavenly realm. And the Maitreya Bodhisattva, the Santusita Divya Raja, is in a different heavenly realm that is much more higher than the Tautisa Divya realm, in the Tusita Divya realm. And he's just waiting there. And apparently that's the Tusita Divya realm is the divine abode where all these bodhisattvas used to wait until the right perfect condition comes on earth to come back and teach. So he is apparently waiting in that Tusita Divya realm. That is what I know. I may be right, I may be wrong, I don't know. Please do your research and you can find it out for yourself. This is what I know.
Okay, thank you. Then again, according to what are the reasons for rebirth and suffering, and it is according to the podcast. I'm just want to enlighten them about that, and what is everlasting happiness as per Buddha, and what is nirvana, and what is
See, we all are like organisms in an environment. We have the senses. When the light touches the eye, when the sound waves, the frequencies touches the eardrum in the ear, the smells when it touches the nose, and when the taste touches the tongue, and when the touches touch the body, these senses get stimulated. When we are stimulated, we start to see, hear, smell, taste, touch appears. And when this happens, we start to interpret it and form thoughts. And depending on the thought that we form, then certain glands get stimulated in our body, and then certain hormones will get secreted. And then according to the hormones, depending on the hormones, what gets secreted, we will have emotions. So the emotion is the stress. When we have emotions, the body goes into a stress cycle. I will take, for example, one hormone, adrenaline. When adrenaline comes to the body, the muscles get tensed, the heartbeat get raised, and a lot of things happens inside the body. So when these chemicals comes into the body and do these physical changes, and when that chemical affects the brain, our mood gets changed, and we call that mood anger. So anger means that emotion is a disturbance to our body and to the mind. So all the emotions are like that because they are based on the hormones. It's due to the hormone that we feel the way we feel. So normally we live with these emotions. But what Buddha showed is that we can control this stress. If we can understand how this process works, if we can understand how the senses work and how we form the thoughts, and if we can take control of these thoughts, how we are going to interpret our circumstances. And if we can control these hormones, we actually can overcome the emotions and we can live peacefully and happy. See, now the animals don't have a brain. Their brain is not evolved to our level where they cannot think rationally and logically and they cannot really understand things. But we can, thanks to our prefrontal cortex, the latest added part in the evolution, we have it, the human beings. So thanks to this prefrontal cortex, we can actually understand things. And due to that, we can actually control our thinking. Now, Buddha showed your thinking is twofold: good thinking, bad thinking, wholesome and unwholesome. We call it in our Western way the negative and positive. So depending on this thinking, the quality of your thought depends the emotion. Buddha points out in this Dhammapada, the first verse and the second verse in Dhammapada, it's a twin verse. Buddha points out the Mano Pubbhangama Dhamma. In that Gathava, what it says is, depending on the quality of your thought, the quality of your mental state will determine. If your mental state is a pure state, a good state, then you will experience comfort and peace and happiness. Because when your mind is pure, your speech, your action also will follow that, and you will experience comfort, peace of mind, and happiness. And then Buddha says, if your thoughts are negative, dirty, if they're unwholesome, your mind is very dirty, very negative. So as a result of this negative state or the junk you're holding on to, your speech and your action also will be negative, will be unwholesome. As a result of this, what is going to cause is stress. So the stress is the dukkha. So you will experience this stress. You cannot escape from that. So Buddha is saying, whether you create stress or whether you create peace of mind or happiness is depending on your state of the mind. So you're responsible, your mind is responsible for stress or for the comfort and peace and happiness. So if you can take control of your thoughts, this is what we call the meditation, is purifying the mind and being aware of your thoughts and having control over your mind. So your mind always, you keep it pure. When it's pure, we don't have stress. So this purity and the stress, again, I will show you in our body. When we form these selfish thoughts, any thought to do with I, me, myself, mine, all these self-centered thoughts goes in the sympathetic pathway, and it is a sympathetic pathway that activates this limbic system and brings the emotions, and that goes into the fight or flight reaction, and this is a stress cycle. So the stress begins with this unwholesome thought. What is it? The selfish thought, the self-centered thought. So Buddha pointed out how to overcome this sense of self, how to get rid of this self. So when you have no self, then the body goes into this parasympathetic mode. In that, the body relaxes, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, then they secrete calming hormones, happy hormones. Then you're peaceful and happy. So an arahat means who have bypassed the sympathetic pathway, who have bypassed the limbic system, amygdala, and who is only functioning from this relaxed state of taking the messages, the parasympathetic pathway. So they are very relaxed, peaceful, and happy. So the arahats don't have emotions because they have bypassed the stress cycle, because they have given up the self, sense of self. They have awakened to who am I. There's no sense of I, me or myself in an arahat. So therefore, all the messages that carries goes in the parasympathetic path. This is what I see. I may be right, I may be wrong in trying to connect it to the science to understand, but this is the physiology of what we hear in the Dhamma. So do your own research, don't take it because I said it. So what happens when you practice the Dhamma is something that purifies us, means it's taking away from our selfishness. We are diluting the selfishness. We are getting rid of the sense of self, and you become a selfless person. That's when we say someone is very pure. So when someone has got rid of that sense of self, what's left is peace of mind and happiness. So then there's no emotion at all. When they face all vicissitudes of life, their mind is unperturbable. They have serenity in the mind that nothing can shake their mind. They're so peaceful. That is how a mind of a arahat. So arahants experience the bliss of Nibbana, the eternal happiness, the unshakable peace of mind. The fully enlightened being means who have gone beyond the sense of I. They have awakened to who am I, and they have realized there was no such thing as I, me, or myself. There is this body, there is these organs, these get stimulated, and we create the thoughts. And because we are so ignorant about this process, we got into trouble, we became emotional. But when you become aware of this, the method to be aware of this is the Noble Eightfold Path, to practice this. So when you follow the Noble Eightfold Path, the final part is the Sattara Satipatthana, becoming aware of this chain reaction. You paying attention to within you. You introspect. Then you start to see, oh, how when the senses get stimulated, how you start to see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and according to the experience, the quality, how you start to form your thoughts, depending on the quality of the thought, how it decided to bring emotions or to keep it calm. So you start to see this happening in you. So you see how the stress comes from within you, how the suffering comes from within you. Normally when we are stressed or when we suffer, we blame others. You are the one who is making me angry. You are the one who is creating problems for me. But Buddha is showing, no, it's happening within you. You are responsible for your suffering. You have the tanha. You have this problem. You need to be aware. So Buddha's method is to awaken to this. We are living in the dark, so unconsciously, so not aware of what's happening inside. We know everything about what's happening in the moon right now. We know what's happening in the Mars, but we don't know what's happening in our brain, in our body, our mind. We don't know. So this is why we are suffering. This is why the stress is coming. So Buddha is saying, pay attention to you. So the Sattara Satipatthana is to bring attention to within you. So you start to see this reaction and you see how the suffering comes to be. You see how the stress comes to be. And we can work with the causes and conditions brought that. And we can get rid of them. And what is left is going to be the ultimate peace and happiness, and the peace that is not going to be shaken by any vicissitude of life is called the bliss of Nibbana. This is what Buddha says in the Mangala Sutta. Nibbana Sachi Kiriyacha Etam Mangala Muttama. The highest happiness one can experience is this bliss of Nibbana. Then he explains what is Nibbana. Description of Nibbana follows then. Uttassa loka dhammehi chittang yassana kampati asokam virajankemang etam mangalamuttama. That's the description of Nibbana. What is this bliss of Nibbana? He says there is this 8 vicissitudes of life, happiness, this unhappiness, fame, ill fame, praise, blame, loss, and gain. Normally people react to this highly. When things go the way you want, they're very happy, elated, they put firecrackers, they laugh, jump, dance. When the things go the way they don't like to face, they don't want to face, they will cry, they will shout, they will fight, they will scream. Sometimes even they will even bury themselves in the ground, suicide, because normally people highly react to these conditions. We only want things to happen the way we like. We don't like to face things that we don't like. We want to control, but you can't control this 8 vicissitudes life. We need to learn to face. So attaining enlightenment, becoming an arahat, means you're facing these 8 vicissitudes of life with equanimity, with wisdom. You have seen everything is created in the mind, so you have stopped reacting. So there's no more reactions now. There's no more elated pleasures or happiness, or there's no more sadness, anger, jealousy, grudges. You have eliminated all the emotions. Asokang virajang kema. There is no soka, there is no sadness, there's no depression. Virajang means there is no more getting attached to the pleasant. Kemang means there's no more fight or friction to the unpleasant. So you don't get angry, you don't get fear, you don't have anxiety and worries, you don't have jealousy. So mind is totally at peace. Chittan yasana kampati means your chitta will no longer shake. It will no longer have all these, the kampana going up and down, the mood swings, the emotions. You won't have anymore. So what's left is this imperturbable serenity of the mind. That's what an arahat experiences. So this is what we call this bliss of Nibbana, or this eternal happiness. This is the highest happiness we can gain, is to be peaceful in the midst of all vicissitudes of life. When we are peaceful, we have the internal happiness comes from that. It is disturbance of this peace, emotions, makes us unhappy. So that is about this unshakable mind. And so when someone attains to this arahathood, they don't create any karma anymore. So there's no more fuel for the vehicle to run further. So after they shed this body, there is no energy for them to take up a new birth. There is no desire for them to be born. They have given up the desiring for the pleasant and having this hatred for the unpleasant. So it's like a stopped car. No more desire to move forward. It's our desire for the pleasant that moves forward. Karma hadan. So when you become an arahat, after you have realized the real truth, where you see all these mental images are creating our experiencing and why we should react to this experience, they've given it up with wisdom, with understanding. So there's no more longing for it. When that longing for things, the pleasant and the unpleasant is gone, you're like a parked car. No longer you desire to exist or to go anywhere or to have this, nothing. So there's no more fuel to be born again. So when this body dies, that's the end of the story. The samsaric journey finishes. It is our emotions, it is our longing that puts a fuel into our car, so we continue in this samsara, because our longing haven't come to an end. We haven't quenched our thirst, so we want. I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. So it takes you forever.
Thank you so much, Meheni.
So,
Thank you so much. Another one.
Sorry. For the discussion today. So we will continue at another time, because it's almost like 11:45 a.m. in Australia. And we will set up another session again. And also we thank Ajanta and Soka Vajrasana for the
I think we can't hear you now.
hope that we all got some insight to the questions that we had. And if anyone has any questions, please send the email to buddhistembassy@gmail.com. So I will forward to Venerable Bodhicitta to reply with the email, and also we can record it. Again, I will request Venerable Bodhicitta to end this session because today is a special day, Sanghamita Day, and a Poe Day in Sri Lanka and also in Australia. In our time is now 7:47. So the people who have joined from Toronto, Shayani, Rajakarna, and others also now it's time for the dinner, I believe. Thank you. So, Avasarai, Venerable Bodhicitta.
Okay, so much merits for arranging this talk, and I'm so glad and honored to be part of celebrating the Sanghamita Day, and I hope everyone can get inspiration from Arahat Sanghamita theory and look up to the Bhikkhunis in the past and what they have done, and the ladies also can get inspiration and strength and courage, and so may they be able to benefit from this pure Arahat theories who walk this path before us, and also all of you. May all of you also get inspiration from the Mahasangha and for the contributions they have made in the past, and know that they have done that for our benefit. Especially the Lord Buddha spent all his life throughout this, even the samsaric life, when he was perfecting the paramitas, he was doing it for us, to help us, to benefit us. And so everyone who followed the Lord Buddha's footsteps, they also got rid of their selfishness, and they went beyond selfless states even, and they benefited everyone, not just human beings. They benefited even the devas, the unseen beings, and they helped many beings, all beings, if possible, wherever they are, they helped. So let us take inspiration from that and find the strength and courage, so we also can walk behind them. If they have managed to walk behind the Lord Buddha's footsteps and found this eternal bliss of Nibbana, and we also can do that. So let's find the strength and courage from the inspiration we get from their characters. And I hope today's discussion have helped you also to dispel many dark spots, and you found some light and got enlightened in certain areas and dispel some misunderstandings. So all the merits that we have generated today by having this discussion, so all that positive energy, let's share it with all the Samyak Drishtika Devi Devata and with all these divine beings who appreciate and rejoice in these merits. And also let's share these merits with all of our departed friends and relatives, and also with all beings. May they all find benefit from the positive energy, the merits that we generated today, and may they also find peace and happiness wherever they are, and may these merits bring causes and conditions for them also to attain Nibbana as soon as possible. keep that loving, kind thought in your heart. And also, let's make the aspiration. May all these merits that we generated today bring causes and conditions for all of us to find, not to find the foolish and the wicked association, but to find the good and the wise people's association. Satpurusha Kalyana Mitra Sevan, until we attain Nibbana. So keep that aspiration in the mind, and also let's make an aspiration that may all the merits that we generated today bring causes and conditions for us to penetrate into the Four Noble Truths and to be able to overcome all the physical and mental suffering and to experience the bliss of Nibbana. So I wish you all the best, and special thanks goes to Mr. Visitor Linaratna and our Kalyana Nita, and also to everyone who joined today and who raised the questions and who hosted and who is going to be listening to this. So may you all and your parents, your teachers, your family members, your siblings, your children, your grandchildren, your friends, relatives, and may all of you benefit from these merits that we generated today. May these merits bring causes and conditions for all of you to find good health and long life. And also may these merits bring causes and conditions for all of your good aspirations to come true. And may all of you one day penetrate into the Four Noble Truths and find freedom from all the physical and mental suffering and experience the bliss of Nibbana in this very life. May all of you be well, comfortable, peaceful, and happy. Sukhi hotu. Teruvan Saranai.
Teruvan Saranai.
Teruvan Saranai.